And the game award goes to Balatro.
For years, big budget AAA titles dominated the conversation with sprawling open worlds, cutting edge graphics, and massive marketing campaigns. But as amazing as those games can be, there's something refreshing about the creative energy coming from smaller studios right now. This year, games like Dredge, Dave the Diver, and Pizza Tower didn't just capture attention, they thrived. They didn't need giant teams or blockbuster budgets. Instead, they relied on innovative mechanics, unique art styles, and stories that felt personal and different, and players ate it up. While big studios can't always justify experimenting with wild ideas because failing on a $200 million project isn't an option, indie developers live in that space. They can turn something as simple as fishing or organizing a backpack into a compelling, addictive experience. Take Dredge for example, which somehow makes fishing eerie and unsettling, turning it into a cosmic horror adventure. Games like this one explore genres and mechanics in a way that AAA titles rarely do today. And the best part? Indie games are accessible. Most of them launch at reasonable prices, aren't stuffed with microtransactions, and are designed with passion, not just profit in mind. In a time where live service fatigue is real and half-finished games launch with promises to fix things later, indie title games often arrive polished and complete. The rise of indie games also proves that you don't need to chase photorealism or massive scale to make something memorable. Some of the most talked about titles this year look like they could run on a Game Boy or an SNES, and that's part of their charm. When indie games succeed, the entire industry benefits. AAA studios take notice, innovation gets rewarded, and players get more variety. It breaks this endless cycle of sequels and remakes and reminds everyone why gaming is exciting in the first place. 2024 feels like a reminder that gaming is as much about creativity as it is about the spectacle. And if this indie wave continues, the future is looking pretty fun. But before we take a deep dive into Balatro, I hope that you like, subscribe, and hit that bell for future notifications. I'm trying to reach 1,100 subscribers after we somehow smashed 1,000. Again, thank you guys for that. But I also wanted to wish you guys a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. I forgot to do it in my last video, but by the time this video is posted, it will be past that. So I hope that not only that, I hope you have a great New Year's as well, and hope that you stay safe. And with that being said, let's get into it. Speaking of, brings us to Balatro, the Game Awards 2024 Indie Game of the Year. In a year full of master blockbuster releases, seeing Balatro win felt like a win for all of the little guys. It wasn't a 100-hour epic with celebrity voice actors or the kind of game that melts your GPU. It was a strange, addictive card game that cost less than lunch. And because of it, it took home the biggest award in gaming. That moment said a lot, and it was proof that pure creativity can outshine the biggest of budgets. That unique, well-crafted games still matter. When Balatro won, it felt like everyone watching, from the crowd at the show to the fans at home, collectively went, "This game deserved it." And honestly, Balatro absolutely earned it. Not because it's stupidly fun and impossible to stop playing, but because it represented what gaming in 2024 was all about. These should remind us that sometimes the simplest, weirdest ideas are the ones that hit hardest. Games don't need to be gigantic or hyper-realistic. Sometimes all it took was a deck of cards and a couple of funny jokers. For years, the Game Awards has been dominated by big, flashy titles. Balatro winning felt different. It showed that indie games aren't just a part of the conversation, they're leading it. And with other nominees like Sea of Stars and Cocoon getting love too, it's clear that this wasn't a one-off thing. Honestly, this win might just inspire even more developers to take chances on their wild ideas. Balatro winning showed that players want something fresh, and they'll show up for it. It makes the whole industry feel a little more exciting, and a little less predictable. Balatro is one of those indie games that sneaks up on you and suddenly, everyone's talking about it. It's this poker-themed roguelike deck builder, and it's just exploded in popularity after its release in early 2024. The game's made by Local Thunk, a solo developer out of Canada, and it was published by PlayStack. It dropped on February 20th, 2024 for basically everything: PC, Switch, PlayStation, and Xbox. Then they rolled out a Mac OS version in March, and by September, it was on Android and iOS too. Now the premise, simple but genius. You're playing poker hands to score points and beat these things called blinds. But it's not just straight up regular poker. You're constantly tweaking your deck, buying jokers with wild effects, and trying to outwit the game as the difficulty ramps up. Think poker, but mixed with the kind of unpredictability and strategy you get from roguelikes. It hooks you really fast. And the numbers show it. Balatro smashed it right out of the gate, and by the end of 2024, it had already sold over 3.5 million copies. For an indie game, that's massive. Critics loved it too. It scooped up 5 nominations at the Game Awards, including Game of the Year. It even walked away with the Best Independent Game trophy. But how does the game actually work? Each time you sit down and play, you start a run. You pick a deck with one of its own little quirks, and the goal is to make it through 8 rounds, or antes. Each ante has 3 blinds to beat, and as you progress, the game throws tougher and weirder challenges your way. Some blinds give you fewer hands to work with or nerf certain card combos, so you gotta be sharp and build the right deck along the way. Between rounds, there's a shop where you can spend the cash you've earned by winning. You buy new cards, booster packs, and vouchers that add a little perks or change to rules entirely. They modify the way your hands score, and maybe double points for flushes or make 3 of a kind hit harder. It's all about stacking these buffs and finding crazy combos, and if you beat all 8 antes, Endless Mode unlocks, letting you keep pushing for higher and higher scores. There's a surprising amount of depth in the cards too. Beyond Jokers, there are Terror cards that give one-time effects, planets that level up poker hands, and these Spectral cards that add even more wild mechanics to the mix. The more you play, the more decks and cards you unlock, giving you even more ways to break the game in creative ways. And the interesting thing with Balatro that no one really talks about is that it gives you that same dopamine hit while keeping things simplistic. And that's what a lot of these reviews are said online, where people who play the game, especially me when I played it, when you finally find that card that fits your deck and you can win the game, it's like a dopamine rush. Like, it's really fun and interesting. And that's why I believe Balatro is so elite in the strategy they put behind their game. Now here's the kicker. LocalThunk, the dev behind all of this, isn't even a poker guy. He doesn't even play it, and he definitely didn't want Balatro associated with gambling. Funny enough though, Peggy gave the game an 18+ rating at one point for gambling imagery, which temporarily took the game off the shelves in some places. PlayStack tried to fight that rating because, let's be honest, this isn't a gambling game, it's just poker vibes with none of the real world stakes. Development on Balatro started about 2.5 years before its release. At first, it was just meant to be a fun little project for friends, nothing serious. The initial idea came from a card game called Big 2, which is kinda like poker, but after seeing roguelike deck builders pop off on Steam, LocalThunk decided to turn it into a full single-player game. He didn't even play much of Slay the Spire until late in the development, just to avoid copying too much. The whole thing snowballed. A few streamers got their hands on the early builds, and people couldn't stop playing. That buzz led to the final version having even more features, including boss blinds that ante up even further. And the updates? They kept coming. In August, October, and December, Balatro dropped crossover content with other indie hits like The Witcher 3, Vampire Survivors, and Stardew Valley, and Among Us. What the hell? Even Cyberpunk 2077 got in on the action with a Balatro themed quest. Fast forward to 2025, and there's even a physical deck of Balatro playing cards coming out, courtesy of Fangamer. And if you're into the game's pixel art aesthetic, that's going to be a must-have. For Balatro, it's one of those indie success stories that reminds you why the gaming industry needs these smaller, risk-taking projects. It's proof that even a simple idea, executed well, can captivate millions. Balatro is proof that sometimes the most unexpected games can lead to a bigger splash. It's a reminder that in an industry full of sequels and safe bets, there's still room for creativity and new ideas, and honestly, that's what makes indie games so special. They keep surprising us. But let me know your thoughts on Balatro. I absolutely love the game because I've downloaded it on mobile since it's been announced, and there's a lot of steam picking up in the fall of 2024. This game's great. I love this game a lot, and it's really good. It's really underrated, and the fact that it won Game of the Year, I'm really happy about it. But with that being said, like I said before, make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that bell for future notifications. Thank you guys so much for all the love and support this year. 2025 is going to be a year where I'm going to be working extra hard to push out content for you guys, so hopefully you guys stick around for that. But with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.